Welcome to a drawing demonstration of Aaron's face. What a beautiful man. On the right, I will point out some of the things that I saw in his face, and then after I do the demonstration, I will show you my end drawing with comments on how I constructed it and some additional comments. So the back of his head and his front of his head are sort of parallel. And this is kind of an important mark. Here's the top of his head and the bottom of his head. Now the thing I notice that's most important is this line. And his nose sticks beyond his cheek, and the recess into his eye is quite significant. His eyes are sort of 2/5 up. This is also another thing I noticed is the wing of his nose and the shadow here and the shadow here. His brow is sort of visible there slightly, and there's a shadow here from his eye. And this ear, top of his ear, is also at the top of his eyebrow. And really the side of his face, or maybe I should do it this way. This is about halfway. So this portion is quite large. It's as large as you have to get all of this stuff into the same amount here. Same distance, same width. So I'm starting with marking by the top and bottom lines of the page, of frame, and figuring out the paper is actually about 2 to 3 in proportion. And so I'm drawing a frame, a border of 2 by 3. I marked thirds on the side. These are where his shirt hits that frame. And I am starting the back of his head, getting that angle. Another short line at the top of his head, and his forehead, and the front side of his head. And measuring to the bottom of his head. And measuring the 5 sections so I can get the 2/5 for where his eyes or his eyebrows are in this pose. And the side of his face is there on the left. And then I'm just diving in and trying to get that nice curve around his nose. Comes to the edge of the front of the face, left side of the box, adding the nostril, and trying to get that deep recess at his eye socket. And from the shape of the eye, the nose, that's where you can start to locate the eye. Adding a little shading, little eyebrow. And now the beard sticks out from his cheek. Start adding the the mustache, the wing nostril, and the shade, and the right edge of that eye. Drawing the whites of the eye socket, the tear duct, and adding some shadow for the eyebrow. The shadows under his eyes, or above his cheek. I misdrew the angle of that mustache. But drawing the mustache itself can help you locate the other objects. The lips are very diminutive. Trying to correct the shape of the mustache versus the cheek. Putting in a hairline on the left, noting it's above the eyebrow, and the texture of the hair is important to get a likeness. There's a shadow across his forehead there. And just building out the beard. And since it's dark, you need many layers of graphite. The shadow under his nose. His eyelids have a very clear crease. And there is shadow coming from his eye. And adding a little bit of tone at the top of his nose, going back to the top of his head. And here I'm realizing that his head's really too narrow. I've drawn it too narrow. And so I'm adjusting, compensating to make it a little bit wider. And as I draw the beard, I'm shaping it and using strokes that mimic the hair, the type of hair he has. The neckline of his t-shirt. And his ear cable. Shadow of his head on his shirt. A little background of his room. Touching up the eyebrows, the eyes. I'm using both a 4B and a 6B, not with real consistency. My 4B is a little bit sharper. Highlighting under his cheekbone. The eye was a little bit too tall, so I kind of narrowed it down a little. Another go at the 6B, a darker, softer pencil for his hair. And that's it. This is a finished drawing. And so here's kind of a summary. So the border is 2 to 3. Or 1 to 1.5. So on the left, I divided the vertical into 3 pieces, and so 2 of those would be equivalent to the width. So I marked the top, 2 tick marks at the top to draw the width and the vertical sides of the frame. The main feature, as I mentioned, is the curve of the nose to the eyebrow, and that's my opinion, and the recess of the eye socket. And I think how this came out, the central part of his face looks pretty good, but it's a little too large compared to the rest of his head. The angles are similar at the front and back, but the front side is carved out. So I think in retrospect, the left side needed more space, or conversely, the features in the center of his face should have been a little bit smaller or tighter. Noted that the eyes are about 2/5 from the top of the head. The rule of thumb is half, but it really depends on the model and the pose. And so you can see the 5 or 4 tick marks for 5 spaces going up the left side of his face, and that's kind of where I put in the eyes and eyebrow. So join me next time when I will be doing drawings of a young bodybuilder, very muscular, so that's a different body type. I hope this was helpful. I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.